What's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. It's the 22nd of December, 2017, and Richard Kallberg will be joining me very shortly. But first, I wanted to do the Tiger Stream drawing. Now, a subscriber named Wendy D was nice enough to type all of these up for me because there's a lot of them. There's 500 plus people that are in. These are the names right here. If your name's not on it, I don't know what to tell you. I didn't type them up. Okay? There's a lot of them. So for all those people that complain about everything, believe it or not, apparently these people do want this item. So here we go. All right. 300, 400. Come on. Come on. There's your name. You can pause it if you need to. Whatever. 556. Okay, so let's go over to random.org. Type in 562. Is that what I just said? Let me double check. Yep, 562. Hit the button. Here we go. This is live. Don't know what to tell you. Is what it is. Generate. 379. So whoever 379 is, you just want a Tiger Stream, send me an email at rjcjr10. 379 is Becky McKnight. Send me your email. Email me, send me your address, and I'll get that thing shipped out to you ASAP. Okay, I can close that window. I can close that window. All right, Richard Kallberg will be jumping in here very shortly. I've had Richard on before. He does a really, really nice job on symbolism, so forth and so on. These are some shirts and mugs that I just made up because everyone keeps sending me emails. These won't be up very long because I have Google's name in it, and they will be pissed off. So get one of these before they're gone. They'll be up and they'll be available till Friday, 6 days. I think they're pretty badass. I already ordered mine. RFB on the back. In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is simply censored by Google. That could not be any more true. Smith-Mundt Act repealed. Propaganda is now called the news. And that is also true. And that takes everything off the internet and it brings it into physical reality. But I digress. All right, let me jump into the chat right quick. Undertaker's here. He has the wrench Neo JB74, Colorado vegan, Crystal Riley, cool hand puke. That's nice. From Australia, I believe. Robert Slatton, what's up, brother? Bobby Smith, I am Vessel. Broken reality, you're not late. I started early, no problem. Okay, so the Tiger Stream has been given away, number 379. I just announced that, so you're going to have to rewind it to figure that one out because I already forgot who it went to. So there's that. I have given Richard the link. He will be here any moment. This is Richard Kallberg's Facebook page, if you're not familiar, and this is his website, The Narrow Gate. I will put a link in the description after the video is live, and I'll put it in the chat right now. Oh, man. Christmas, huh? That's the best part about being awake, is being the person that ruins Christmas for everybody. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Is what it is. I made these. These are pretty badass. In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is simply censored by Google. It could not be any more true. These will be up for 7 days. 7 days, and that's it. Smith-Mundt Act repealed. Propaganda is now called the news. People aren't going to like that, but it's completely and totally true. So, again, I don't know what to tell you. All right, Richard, you got the link, brother. Let's jump in because I got stuff to do today, and I do not feel like doing this live stream. I was just watching this video by Builder Rejected. Christmas and Krampus, the horn god. Satan is Santa and vice versa. And it all ties back to Nimrod. And he talks about the prophet Jeremiah warning people not to bring trees into their house and decorating them with silver and gold. And it's exactly what people do anyways. So there is that. At any rate. Oh, yep. Bah humbug indeed. Kimberly Wilson says, hi, everyone. Cloud Loud. I can't believe I already forgot who just won that. That's crazy. I just said her name, and it's a woman. So number 379, 379. I had somebody send me a video that wanted to do a live stream with me, and his video is explaining, oh, Richie, I've been talking shit about you for a long time now, and I was telling everybody how your name adds up to a number in gematria, and then I decided to do my name, and it comes up the same. So now I'm sorry. So you've been making videos about me for 6 months that are completely baseless and dragging my name through the mud, but now you want to be on a live stream with me, and you figured out you were wrong. Yeah, believe it or not, a lot of people forgive. I don't have time for that, is what it is. I have people attack me constantly. That's the beauty of doing this. You know what I'm saying? I'll tell you one thing. One good thing is I was in traffic the other day on Route 9, and a woman in a white BMW pulled up next to me and waved me down. Her name was Colleen, and she said, dude, I'm one of your subscribers, and I am awake. And she seemed like she had her stuff together. She looked like she was living the American dream, and she was awake. And that made me happy, and it happens quite often. So at any rate, Richard Kallberg, I am waiting here, brother. I know I started a little bit early, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Let's do this. There he is right there. Handsome young fella from the UK. Very cool website if you've never been here before. He's a very polite young fella. That's a killer picture of all birch trees. That's the stuff I see when I'm out hiking all the time. Very, very cool website. And Richard is, I hope he's not having issues on his end. That would suck, because every time I've tried to have him on, there's been issues. I had a tough night sleeping last night, so I really didn't even want to do this morning, which is why I started early. I might as well get through it, get to it. But we shall see. At any rate, 250 people. Escape plan, I hear you. Yeshua Vencedor, Kelsey McKenna, Richard Kallberg. Oh, there you are, Richard Kallberg. No problem. You're killing me. All right. He just posted on the chat. Give him 5 minutes. Tougher than nails. What's up, brother? Rebecca Silvius. Robert Slatton. Yeah, I saw it. I got you. Hey, how's my volume? Am I all right here? Do I sound flat? Anybody? 7 of 7. What's up? Broken Reality. Yeah, me neither. Me neither. And I'm getting a lot of horror stories from Australia, New Zealand, and the UK saying that they believe that HARP is being fired up because people are falling asleep. All sorts of wacky stuff during the day. How's that? And I just woke up, so volume's great. Good. 10 by 10. Good. Yeah. All right, cool. Godseed Lee said, get some zinc for that sinus thing. It's only when I start live streaming, which is really strange. Thanks. Potter's Clay is in the chat. Critical Thinker. Yeah, it's this microphone. I think I finally have it hooked up correctly, because I don't know if you noticed my intros sound terrible because my laptop is recording its own volume or whatever. So I'm working on it. I'm trying. Yeah, I don't like squirting saline up my nose. You know what I mean?
Hey, Richie.
Well, what's up, brother? All right. Richard Kallberg has joined us. Sorry, man. I didn't feel like, I just sent you a message. I didn't feel like doing this. And I'm like, I can't blow him off. If we can actually do this, let's do it. So,
oh, that's all right. Hope you're feeling good today.
Here we go. I've already introed you. I've already told everybody how great you are. So you better be great.
No pressure.
I'm just kidding. It's all good, man.
I'm planning on riding on your coattails.
Yeah, whatever. Listen. So last year we did this. I don't know exactly what month it was, but let me ask you, in your personal opinion, and take as long as you want, have you ever seen them come out as blatantly as they have. I mean, you study symbolism, dude. We are drowning in it right now.
Yeah, it's all around us.
Externalization of the hierarchy is what you would call it, correct?
Exactly, yeah, like Alice Bailey and Helena Blavatsky talk about. You know, they're just normalizing everything. You see in like TV shows like Simpsons, Family Guy. They even have shows. Sorry, there's a bit of an echo. They have shows about pagan festivals in Simpsons, for example, and children watching that will watch that and think it's normal, and it gets normalized and becomes normal behavior in the mainstream. So that's becoming more common, but that's not new. I mean, Disney's been doing that for years, targeting children specifically, as have other movie shows.
Is the echo gone when I mute like this?
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah.
All right. I don't know what that is, man. I'm working on it. Yeah, I mean, I think I had you on after the
we were on in May.
Gothard Tunnel ritual. And if it was in May, then did we talk about that at all?
Might have mentioned it.
Because that was a monster. That was an absolute monster.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know how anyone, even the mainstream news like RT, covered that and said it looked really weird.
Well, they called a couple of mainstream outlets. I mean, they were inconsequential, but RT covered it, and a couple others just called it for what it was. They're like, this is just evil. But on the narrow gate or on your Facebook, one of the two, I noticed that you put up the Economist cover from 1988.
Yeah.
Talk about it, brother.
Yeah, I mean, you could pull that up if you just Google it. Or it'd be easy to talk about it if
this is a talk show type deal right now. So just talk about it.
I mean, the cover came out in 1988. But the cover is about world currency, digital currency, and they've got a coin on the cover which has a date, which is 2018. I mean, the picture around the coin is a giant phoenix, which is symbolic of the New World Order, rising out of the ashes of cash. So it's clearly symbolic of the digital currency rising out of the fiat currency that we currently have. And it's remarkable how a cover like that could be made and presented to the public before the internet even went public, because the internet was around for a long time, but it only went public in 1989. So the year before the internet was launched to the masses, they already knew about the digital currency in 2018, as it specifically says on the cover. The date on the coin, 2018.
And when you look at it, the first thing you think of is Bitcoin. That little symbol. They did a very good job of that. And I didn't even notice that. I didn't even notice that because I've been following Economist covers for a long time. And that is without a doubt what they were talking about. You can't miss it. You know what I mean? And again,
I mean,
symbolism, numerology, 2018 adds up perfectly to 9/11.
Yeah. And you have the phoenix you can see in the closing ceremony of the London Olympics. They had the giant phoenix as well. They had the song of the Eurovision's, Conchita Wurst with the rise like a phoenix out of the ashes of whatever the lyrics go. But it's very clear what they're doing, and Bitcoin is part of the agenda to get everyone hooked up to the AI like beast. I mean, Nicholson does a good job, with you covering that a lot. Oh, and on that coin, there's also the number 10, and if you say 10, say 10 out loud. It's Satan. That's why there's a number 10.
Dude, good catch, man. Say 10.
that was someone on my Facebook who commented on that. I thought it was brilliant.
So Who cares? Just take credit for it.
Whoever noticed that, that's credit to you.
This is crazy. Yeah, these guys, this is their favorite method right here. These guys own this magazine. Go back, it goes right to the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers, one of the two, but this is how they communicate all the time.
Then right now you've got the iPhone X coming out, and you jumble those words, iPhone X, it's Phoenix.
Oh,
So it's
dude,
right in time.
good catch.
It's right in time. I mean, you got to pay attention to these details because they don't waste words or symbols. Everything has a meaning. Like you've covered previous Economist covers, and like there's no details that aren't there for a reason.
I know you must have looked at the 2018 Economist cover. I've gotten it. It's got 63 symbols on it. I have not figured it out as of yet what it is.
I had a brief glance, but I haven't attempted
This right
to decode it yet.
It looks like it's got Charlie Brown on it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff on there. There's Trump on there as well. Just noticing.
Yeah, that's definitely. It's funny you just said there's Trump on there. It's the first one that I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big one.
That looks like Kim Jong-un there in white. Looks like the white ones are representing religion or something, maybe. I don't know.
The white ones, one's a cup of coffee or a cup of tea.
Well, there's the Statue of Liberty there.
Yeah, this one sucks. I apologize, man. I almost bailed on this one this morning, but I couldn't do it to you, man.
Yeah, no worries.
So I didn't have this all set up. It is what it is.
You wanted to talk about crop circles and how they're sigils.
Dude, you are the best. Yeah, I got permission. This is going to take a second. I got permission from this guy that actually flies over them and records them firsthand. And it's not live. It's right here. Temporary temples. Okay, so this website, Temporary Temples, these people, I've been in contact with them. They said we could use this info. This is crazy, and it's funny because if you were on YouTube, just say 10 years ago when people like Nicholson first showed up, Corbett Report, all these guys first showed up, crop circles were an everyday thing. Someone was always making a video about them, and you don't really hear about it too much anymore, but these are the best ones from 2017, and if you notice, the cube is in the middle of every one of them, and I understand. People, yep, some dudes, college kids did this with a board and 2 pieces of rope. Yep, they may have, but they didn't make all of these because this is far too complex. You know what I mean? And this one right here caught my eye big time because it's Aleister Crowley's version of the Baphomet with the Tree of Life right in the very middle. And this thing was enormous, absolutely enormous. And I just don't see how someone made this with a piece of wood in the middle of the night with nobody looking real quick. To me, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Give me your spin on this, but this looks exactly like they're doing an enormous satanic ritual on the earth for whoever may be looking down.
Yeah, I mean, in
if
my
I'm
blog,
wrong, say it, man.
Yeah, I covered crop circles in my blog actually, post 14, and showed the connection between how they're manifested. It's magnetic energy, but they're made from when regular people or everyday people think about crop circles, they think about aliens, and it's a huge part of the alien deception, and that's why the people who are doing they do satanic sacrifices and rituals, they conjure up demons who then create these crop circles to push the idea of aliens, and anyone UFO researchers who research these without knowing what they are, it's kind of like they're getting put under a spell that they're starting to believe in the alien narrative. So that's why they're doing the crop circles. I mean, you look back, they didn't have the powers to do crop circles until the early 20th century, but then they steadily rose, and they're happening all over the place now. And it's all about the alien deception, because in the UFO community, they're super excited about these, and a lot of them think that they're from aliens, but they're using they conjure up demons who create these using magnetic energy. I mean, we see in the Bible. The Bible doesn't talk about crop circles per se, but it does talk about the lying signs and wonders.
Right.
And we often see videos of there are videos of crop circles being formed when there's a glowing light orb right above them. And in Corinthians it talks about there's no wonder because Satan himself shows up as an angel of light. So these are made by demons, to push the idea that they're from outer space and their communication between humans and aliens. And that's what the world's been led to believe. And we've seen this week, actually, CNN has started to go big on, talking about spaceships from outer space and things. And they're really going to go hard on the alien deception. We see in March and June, they've got conferences for the alien research community. So they're, don't be surprised if you see a lot more on CNN and Fox News and the mainstream outlets about aliens just pushing their narrative. And you'll see Michio Kaku and all these guys like rolled out to talk about it.
Michio Kaku, I cannot stand that guy. He's just so I don't even find, I mean, at least Neil deGrasse Tyson had me fooled for a long time, because I literally went and saw him speak at Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut. I was all about it. Everything he said, I was listening. And then he went on Joe Rogan and said, "Oh, chemtrails aren't real at all. That's just simply ice crystals." And I was like, wait a minute, man, this is nonsensical. And I was not wrong. This is the video. Can you see this?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, you see those glowing orbs.
That's the one you're talking about, right? This is the one. This came out a long time ago, and the amount of debunking videos is astounding. The only problem with that is these little guys that are floating around right now. I've actually seen one, and I saw it 2 days in a row. And the second time, it popped up exactly in the same spot as I pointed at it. So I've seen these things. They definitely exist. And from the literal mountain of emails I've got, other people have seen them too. So there's that. So I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, this guy right here, Steve Alexander, has the copyright on these pictures. But Steve, I'm the one that you said I could use them. So do not hit me with a strike, brother. I'm leaving the link to your website in the description and the chat. This is for informational purposes only. Aren't we technical here, Richard Kallberg? First thing in the morning.
Yeah, thanks for getting up so early.
I didn't get up. I slept. I don't know if you watched the video I put out a couple of months ago, but I thought I was in the clear, but my sleep has been getting disrupted again. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, these things are crazy, man. These things are crazy. And the funny thing is this particular, Thelema Baphomet tree of life, if you notice in the pictures, there's an enormous mound right next to it. He points the camera right at it. This just reminds me of the Serpent Mound, or one of the many mounds that we have here in the United States that I've gone and videotaped. These things are indeed real. They're burial mounds. And if you look at the newspapers in the early 1900s, late 1800s, these guys were digging these things up, and every single time they found some giant dude, until the Smithsonian swooped in and scurried away with the bones. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the alien deception is definitely picking up steam. You can see it everywhere. NASA's doing their part, Michio Kaku, all of these guys. So be ready. Be ready.
And at the same time, you mentioned Neil deGrasse Tyson. I noticed that Eric Dubay is supposed to go live with him on a live Skype call or whatever. And what I think they're doing, they're getting ready to there's a reason why Flat Earth has gone mainstream. Like, you see people like Kyrie Irving, Freddie Flintoff, celebrities, promoting Flat Earth, and also mainstream newspapers, The Sun, Guardian, Telegraph, you name it. They're all talking about or mentioning Flat Earth, usually in derogatory manners, but they're talking about it and raising awareness for it. And what I think they're doing is they're getting ready to debunk it live on air, because the circular map is wrong. I've got a picture on my Facebook cover page, which you've got on now in the video, which shows the real cosmology, which can be derived from the Book of Enoch. Hoping to do some videos on that, but I don't know if you've looked at that much at all. The Book of Enoch. Hello?
Time. My microphone was muted. I'm trying to be polite here, and I keep muting my mic.
Sorry.
Yeah, the Book of Enoch. I've looked into that a lot. The Book of Enoch, the only reason, in my opinion, that it wasn't canonized is because I don't know why everybody thinks that everything would be put in the Bible. The guys that canonize this are the same people that are putting up enormous demonic sculptures behind the papal throne. Still the same people, still the same order. It's the Jesuits. And then if you look even further behind that, it's the Jews. So what do you make of that, Richard? Am I wrong?
Well, the Book of Enoch is actually still to this day canon in the Ethiopian Orthodox and Eritrean Orthodox Bibles. Partly that's one of the reasons why those countries have been totally obliterated.
Obliterated.
I mean, you think of Ethiopia, you think of starving children, and I think it's a backlash to this truth coming out with the Book of Enoch, because is stored and in these canons, the Bibles of the Ethiopian Church. But I mean, the ways. I'm sure there's some people listening who are wondering why I think the circular map is wrong. I'll just give a quick example, like the speed of the sun between the northern Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn would have to change by 70% on the circular map, and that's not what we observe in the sky. The sun rises in the southeast in the southern so-called hemisphere, which is incompatible with the circular, azimuthal equidistant map. We often see the sun appearing under the clouds, so it's obviously not circling 3,000 miles up. Also on the UN flag, I'm sure you've seen that with that map is on their flag, but it's got 33. It's got 33 sections. The gates, the bars that are on that map, and I mean, you've seen all these false flags. They're always putting 33 on there in their false flags. 33 is a hoax code, and it's telling you in plain sight that map is a hoax. And as I said, Flat Earth is going mainstream because they want to debunk it. And if anyone who's been to Eric Dubay's website, ifers.org, can see that there's a huge section of it that's dedicated to promoting Hitler. And there are questions about World War II, but to have the de facto, like so-called leader of the Flat Earth, closely, parading Hitler, it makes it very easy for people to switch off.
Your volume just dropped out, brother. And just real quick, in my opinion, I don't think anything of Dubay. I don't. If you look at, I'm not even going to get into it. So go ahead. Never mind.
Yeah.
But yes, the one that takes the most credit, the one that popped up out of nowhere with all these books and so forth. I guess that's considered the leader, but it's not.
Yeah. Obviously, he's not he's not a leader, but that's what people, most people.
No. I hear you. I
mean, when I came into Flat Earth for the first time, I came across him. That's what happens. But a very simple way to prove Enoch that his cosmology is right is by watching the moon rise on the horizon. And if you think of the 6 gates that Enoch talks about, the 6 so-called portals, they're simply tracks. So if you're watching the moon rise throughout its lunar cycle, the monthly cycle, you can see the moon jumping back and forth in its tracks. It's like if you look at your house, basically, just to give a visual example, on one night you'll see the moon rising on the left side of the house, and then 7 days later it'll rise on the right side of the house, and and then it'll jump back again 7 days after that. So there's you can observe that any child can use a compass or a landmark and just observe the moon rise, and they'll see for themselves Enoch's gates, which is a huge mind blower, because it shows you that Enoch's cosmology is right. It debunks the globe, it debunks the flat Earth circular model, and it shows you that we have a creator who is a mechanical engineer, and he built this. I mean, the gates, the moon gates, it's like a transmission system, like the gears in a car. It's very similar. It's pretty awesome to watch it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And that the reason I even found your website a couple of years ago was the work that you did on the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio, because people don't seem to understand that code, the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio are in everything, every single solitary thing. And it kind of ruins their stupid theory of evolution.
Yeah, completely.
But I digress.
No, Fibonacci, it shows everything is connected. Humans, the proportions of our hands, the proportions of our limbs, our bodies, our the way the face is constructed, the way plants grow, the way weather systems, happen, DNA, flowers, trees, the reproductive patterns of animals like rabbits. It all follows the Fibonacci series and shows that our reality is inherently designed by a very intelligent creator, and so that should already be enough evidence for anyone to conclude that we're intelligently designed. But then when you see it for yourself with the moon jumping, and you realize that it's not just the small things like or so-called small, like the plants, the people, and everything around us. It's the actual system itself that's been designed, like the gears of a car, and you see that happening right in front of you with your two eyes. It's amazing, and I recommend to anyone, just start watching the moonrise and use a compass or use a landmark on the horizon, and watch that moon rising, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Let me ask you, I inadvertently pulled up ley lines. Can you just go over a couple of things on ley lines? Like, for instance, I'm sure you've already figured this out, how the Coral Castle in Florida, Sandy Hook, 9/11, the Pentagon, the Great Pyramids of Giza, how everything is specifically on a ley line.
Yeah, you just want me to do that quickly? I wrote a whole.
No, but you don't have, I don't mean to say it like that. But they are, though, correct? Everything is everything of importance. Every event that they've presented to us always turns out to be on the same exact ley line, right?
Yeah, I mean it's
real quick,
like these big temples. So on Earth, there's a grid system where you have energy points where they intersect. There's higher amounts of energy, and they built a lot of like slaughterhouses for animals. They build on these grid points on these ley lines. They hold huge rituals like 9/11, Boston bombing, Atlanta Olympics bombing. The Teotihuacan temple is built on one of the grid lines, and someone made some videos on YouTube showing how these ley lines over America, it's actually a huge pentagram with ley lines that they've designed to, and that again is it's like a huge sigil to conjure up demonic forces in a particular place. All of these events and rituals that they do are aligned to one another. And that's why you see, the same reason you see, these Freemasonic designs in city plans. In Washington, D.C., you see a big pentagram, just above the White House. You see an upside-down cross. You see the six-pointed star. All of this is it's sigil magic, done in plain sight, and no one realizes it. And people see it and think it's cool, but they don't realize the demonic, the witchcraft aspect of it. It's conjuring forces. Ephesians 6:11 says, for we fight not against flesh and blood, but against powers of darkness in high places. And these people who are worshiping at Bohemian Grove, they're worshiping Moloch, and they're Satanists. They put all of their truth in plain sight. Even on the dollar bill, there's a lot of truth on there, including the pyramid itself is an actual representation of our cosmology. You have the circular firmament around it, and then you have a prism where that's where we live. Isaiah 40, chapter 40, verse 22 talks about God sits above, enthroned on the circle of the earth, and spreads across a tent below for us to dwell like grasshoppers. And all of these scriptures come together really nicely with Enoch's cosmology, and it all starts to fit in, and all of the truth that they've put in plain sight, including that pyramid on the dollar bill, starts to make perfect sense again. And once you get into understanding the occult and spiritual warfare, it takes on a whole nother dimension. To understand what the elite are doing with all these ley lines and the sigils that they put in plain sight, and all the events where they do them on grid lines, on ley lines, and it's all very calculating. It also shows the the intelligence of the people we're up against, or the forces we're up against. In the Church of Satan, they have their 9 sins, and the first sin for them, the Satanic Church, is stupidity. And the people we're up against are very smart, very educated. You're more likely to see a Satanist in a suit than you are in the classic view of like in a cloak with flashing the devil signs in their hands. They're very, very smart people. The people in government, I mean, they're a lot of them are Satanists, except you don't think of them because you just see them in suits and you think of that as everyday normal things. But
I say that all the time. I say it all the time. If you look at how they've rolled this entire thing out over the last several decades, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And then when you think about who's behind it and where they're getting their information from, it would stand to reason. You know what I mean? These fallen angels are giving this information up to people that are conjuring them, doing all these different rituals and using all these symbols and sigils. These people, these fallen angels were standing there as everything was created. So they have the ability, they know they have the knowledge, they just can't create on their own. So they hand it off to mankind, and these guys are reproducing it. And I can't really see how people don't see this happening.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
it's pretty flagrant at this point.
Exactly that is outlined in chapters 8 to 10 in the Book of Enoch, where the fallen angels taught sorcery and the cutting of roots and making of weapons to mankind. But the Book of Enoch also has some verses talking about how God sends Enoch to tell the watchers, the fallen angels, their punishment, and at the same time he tells them that their knowledge is it's very limited compared to the knowledge of God. I mean, you have to think of the spiritual realm where with the angels, it's very hierarchical. You get that sense when you read the Book of Enoch that you have Azazel and then the 200 angels below, and there's a lot of hierarchies. And just like on Earth, where you have leaders of countries, you have leaders of counties or governors, then you have families, the head of a family, children. In school, you have 12th grade, 11th grade, etc., down to preschool, kindergarten. God likens the angels. I mean, they're like children because they don't have all the knowledge that God has, and the knowledge that the people who humbly seek God will get is going to far surpass the knowledge that the elite are getting from the fallen angels, because they're teaching Kabbalah magic and all of this stuff in the occult. But that stuff, it's going to be found wanting when God comes down and pours out His Holy Spirit into those who follow Him.
Did I lose you?
You're here.
Oh, okay, cool. I keep muting my mic.
Did I lose you?
You're killing me. I don't want to get echoes here, so I keep muting it. This is amazing, man. This is absolutely amazing that all of this is literally unfolding. And have you noticed that it's definitely sped up for some reason? I mean, in 2017, they kicked it up several gears, man. This is all happening fast. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I get the sense that this is the calm before the storm. 2018, there's a lot of things coming together. In 2017, we had the whole Weinstein thing. We started 2017 with Pizzagate coming out. Everything's out in the open now, and at one stage or another, they're just going to step out, and it's going to become the norm. People just don't care anymore. They don't have time. They just think it's ridiculous.
It's amazing, dude. I don't know how it is in the UK.
It just gets more and more accepted. I mean, you see the transgender movement picking up steam massively, and in June it became legal. Bestiality became legal in Canada. You have movies like Beauty and the Beast rolling out right on the back of that, and a lot of things are getting normalized that 5 years ago or even 2 years ago would have been ridiculous. I mean, pedophilia is a big thing that on the back of the LGBT movement, the same way that they rolled out, normalized homosexuality is the same way they're normalizing pedophilia by making it a social identity that people don't have a choice. It's just how they identify, and that's how they're born. So we have to be respectful of them. We have to be equality. and all these social justice groups, Black Lives Matter, LGBT, feminism, Antifa, you know, they're all, you know, pretty much merging into one, where they're all fighting against freedom of speech and the truth. So it's like you're watching, you know, the army, Antichrist army, being joined into one, and it's the early stages of that, because that's only going to get hyped up even more when you introduce the mark of the beast and transhumanism, when people will literally give their minds over, and just, I mean, they're already controlled by the media to a large degree, but they'll be, you know, remote controlled through the chips and other methods.
I just dropped something. That sucks. Let me ask you, how bad is the chemtrailing where you're at?
I see today there's blue sky in the morning, and then around midday they start spraying it, and within hours there's, you know, it looks like the same sky as you have over in Boston. I mean, the thing with London and the UK is that there's like always been this narrative, or this story that England has terrible weather. Everyone knows that, so they get away with a lot more here, because people just assume that it's just the usual bad weather, when, you know, if you can often see when there's a layer of cloud and there's a hole, there's like a duvet over the sky, and there's a hole in the sky, or in the clouds, you can see chemtrails above that in just lots of crisscross patterns. And I mean, people just don't look up anymore, and they assume that it's real. I mean, you've covered it very well with what Harvard's, you know, stuff that they come out with, what's his name, David Keith or whatever, talking about how it's you know, for climate change. And
David Keith hates me, dude.
I can't see why he would hate you.
Yeah, but the thing, I've never been to the UK, but I've always compared what they're doing. I'm assuming that our weather is now like London. It's not New England anymore. It's definitely like just like England. You can't see the sun ever anymore, ever, and no one seems to have a problem with that.
Yeah, when I see your videos, I see the identical skies as we have here when I see your videos of the Boston sky.
You're killing me. You keep stopping, and I have my mic muted.
Sorry,
I do not have my shit together this morning. Sorry about that, Richard.
The echo's not there anymore, by the way. So
okay. Well, check this out. Let me ask you while I have you here. This picture right here, what is it you're thinking of? You look like you're pondering all the questions of the universe all at one time.
I don't know. That picture was taken on. I was on a road trip with some friends up to Scotland, northern Scotland, and just sitting having some breakfast. And I don't know what I was thinking at that time, but it's kind of. I chose that picture because it's reflective of my general mood. I mean, just
cool.
Thinking of stuff.
Let me ask you right now, if you could only get one piece of information out to the public, if that was it, you were limited, what would be the most important thing to you right now?
Oh, go watch the moonrise, 100%. Like go watch the moonrise and watch Enoch's Gates, because that is 100% undebunkable proof that you know, we live in a cosmology and that there's a God who designed it, and the globe is totally dead, and so is the circle, flat Earth. And that's a really important one for flat earthers to get as well, because once they debunk the circle model in the public sphere, which they're doing, that's why they're pushing the flat Earth into the mainstream so much. Once they debunk it, then all flat earthers will look like Hitler-loving idiots, basically, just because there's so many holes in the model that has come to be accepted as the flat Earth cosmology.
And I was just interviewed by a radio show the other day, and it's called the Writer Junkie, and he asked me, what do you think the biggest psyop on the internet is right now? And I said, this is going to sound wrong. I said, but listen to me. I said, the flat Earth. I said, now, I've already shown in videos where I went out on my own to figure out the flat Earth. You know what I'm saying? You know, lots of people come to conclusions these days because if they've seen videos. I actually went out. I have the Atlantic Ocean across the street from me. So I went out there and I realized if we lived on a globe or a round planet, the ocean would gradually fall away. Ships I wouldn't be able to bring them back in with a Nikon P900, which I can. So I came to the conclusion that, yep, this is, we live under a firmament. The sun, the moon, the stars, all that is not what people think it is whatsoever at all. But the way they have presented it is exactly the psyop. The way it popped up out of nowhere, the people that presented it to everyone, and just like you just said,
yeah,
it's going to make everyone look like Hitler-loving. Finish that sentence.
It is. No,
you know what I'm saying?
No, but for anyone who hasn't looked into the subject yet, my blog between posts 16 up to 24 and then also 27 covers the flat Earth. It does cover the circle model because that's what I believed in before. But as I say on my on the intro page for my blog, there's a quote that I kind of stand by, and it's open-minded people embrace being wrong, are free of illusions, don't mind what people think of them, and question everything, even themselves. And I'll happily stand up and admit that the cosmology, the circular Earth that's presented in a few of my blog posts is the wrong cosmology, but there is still a lot of truth in many of most of the blog posts. I covered the curvature. In post 18, I debunked the curvature. Post 17, I debunked NASA and the moon landing and their CGI operations. In post 23, I debunked gravity. And post 20, debunked the spinning ball myth. So there is still a lot of information that's useful, and I think it's also useful to be familiar with the circle map because it is a stepping stone to understanding flat Earth in general. And it's also really important to, when we go through learning truth, we always stop and think we know the truth, and then we find out later that we've been misled by a gatekeeper. And that process of learning something that we later find out is false is really important to learning how the enemy works and is trying to deceive us. So I'm not going to rewrite any posts, but I'd invite people to read those posts, understand the circular model as it's presented there, but then keep in mind that Enoch is the real cosmology. Isaiah chapter 11 verse 12 talks about the four corners of the earth, as does Revelation 7 verse 1, four corners of the earth. And there's a lot of passages in the Bible that make a lot more sense. Ezekiel's wheels, for example, is the moon pendulum. I don't want to get too technical on air because it's very difficult to explain, but Ezekiel's wheels is the magnetic motion of the moons, and it's a pretty awesome cosmology. But I'm gonna have to make some videos on that to explain it better. I actually recorded. I sat down and recorded a 1.5 hour video 3 days ago, but then once it was done, the audio didn't work. Despite the fact that I checked the audio, it was just
welcome to the machine. That happens all the time, dude. The harder you work, the more you research, the more time and energy you put into a specific video. Every time it doesn't work, it won't go live. Welcome. Yeah, you're gonna run into that constantly.
I've experienced that. I mean, even going live with you, it's a minor miracle that you and I are live right now. I was kind of expecting another technical.
That was the problem. It happened last year too, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Every time I tried to bring Richard on, something wacky would go wrong. And this morning, I just didn't feel like it. Like I said, I wasn't ready. I woke up late, and I was like, I can't do this. I actually have them. We got to go. So I appreciate you making it, man, especially early because I'm not very regimented, dude.
It's not. It's 4 p.m. over here, so it's okay.
Oh, it is? Nice.
Well, I'm in London, but you keep saying that I'm from the UK or I'm English, but I'm actually Swedish.
Oh, well, that's because I didn't bother to research it. I figured you were from London. You sound like you're from London. Dude, I'm an American. That's what, Oh, you got an accent. You're from London. That's it. Sorry about that.
Why, thank you, sir.
Yeah, we're Americans, man. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's funny, too. I think I put out a video yesterday where I was explaining how, it's amazing how many people from Australia, Scotland, New Zealand, and Russia suddenly, and South Korea have been sending me emails. and it's fun. Everyone else is looking at us and seeing what's happening, and everyone in America isn't seeing anything at all. Everything is fine. And these people can't, I mean, they have come out. They're telling us everything. I mean, right down to bestiality, and people just don't have an issue with it. They're telling people that their cell phones are going to give them cancer, and people are like, yeah, well, you know, it's convenient.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's the amount of predictive programming, the amount of spell casting that has gone on in the United States is staggering. There are so few of us that actually see it. And most of us, even myself, I have ADD like a freight train. You know what I'm saying? It's unbelievable because they're sprinkling heavy metal on us all day, every day. It's in the food, it's in the water. And if you tell people that and present them with all the facts, they laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, come on, man. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. It's amazing. It's amazing.
But one thing to remember is, you know, they steer the counterculture as well as the culture, and the truth movement. You know, they want us to be the public to be reading about you know, a lot of negative things about, you know, phones cause cancer. They want everyone to be bombarded with fear and thinking of diseases. And when we go back to Trump's inauguration speech in January, he was talking about how advancements in technology are going to eradicate all disease, and that's right in line with transhumanism, because the public is going to be fearful of Ebola, all these viruses, all these diseases, cancer from the phones and Wi-Fi, smart meters, smart grid. Everything is about making people, you know, think in fear, and then they're going to present, you know, the solution, which will be transhumanism, which will just wipe out all diseases, really, because people can just live in an augmented reality bubble, free from disease, and just be whoever they want, be what they want. And so it's just a more Hegelian dialectic with you know, problem, reaction, solution, where they roll out the problem, they push so many diseases on us, they created a lot of them, cancer and things, fluoride in the water. Then sparks a reaction. People are curious. They want to research more. They want to learn more, and you know, get worry of all these diseases, and they want a solution to the diseases that were previously caused by the people who are going to present the solution, which is then transhumanism. It's a clever ploy.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant, and it doesn't even seem to bother most people that a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of channels have been exposing this well before anyone even knew what it was they were talking about, and now it's here, and they're still doubting it.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing it from so many different angles as well. Like, you've got Bitcoin, which is the financial, getting everyone into buying into, you know, the convenience factor of online currency, which is safer or whatever. You've got video games, which is, you know, becoming more and more realistic, and you know, you can be in the game. I think I talked about that last show with you, where people can like be the quarterback in the team in like virtual reality. And one trend that's being noticed with people who play augmented reality and virtual reality games a lot is that when they play these games a lot, when they come back, when they take these goggles off and they come back to the real world, they stop feeling like the real world is the real world. So because it's like they're used to this like virtual world where anything goes, and so imagine like people running around in virtual reality killing people in these shooter games, and then they come back to the real world and they don't know if that's the real world or not, and you know, they'll be doing whatever. It's like Westworld basically, but people won't know which one's which.
Westworld was a monster. Westworld was, see, since last time we spoke, I don't think Westworld was around as of yet, so it's been a while. Westworld was a statement from the very beginning to the very end. They showed exactly what their intent was, and I stick to this day. The technology that they're showing us, Sophia, all this dumb stuff, Hans, that's not it. That's not it at all. That's Sophia is the creepiest, lamest.
You mean that robot in Saudi Arabia, or
say again?
You mean that robot in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah. Yeah, they have if they're showing us Sophia as their latest technology, they have machines already that probably look exactly like us.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
operate exactly like us. I don't know if they're walking amongst us right now, like a lot of people do. I can't prove that, but I wouldn't doubt it.
I mean, they talk openly about DNA manipulation and cloning. So that's something they've been able to do for years. So, you know, for them to be able to make a clone and you know, have a person who's you know, robotically like us. I mean, they already do it with people with clones who are biologically like us. So it's you know, that's nothing new.
Well, it's funny because they came out with cloning. They were talking about cloning Dolly the sheep, blah, blah, blah. And then it kind of just quietly went away.
Yeah.
Which worries me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, DNA, when, you know, that's the days of Noah returning. I mean, in the Bible, Jesus said, you know, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. And in the days of the Son, rather. And in the days of Noah, you know, you go back to Genesis and it talks about, you know, before the flood, it talks about how all flesh was corrupt. What does that mean? That means that they're cloning. They're making animals because the giants wanted to eat, you know, food. So they cloned a bunch of animals and everything was corrupt. You see myths about minotaurs and you know, these Egyptian paintings of, you know, humans with animal heads and stuff. I mean, those start to be less mythological and more historical when you realize that the technology that we have today with cloning was, you know, pretty much the same as they had back then, and that's why it was wiped out.
In my opinion, the Egyptians, and I've even seen carvings in Moab, Utah, on the cliff faces. These people wouldn't have sat around and took all the time to painstakingly carve all of these different things if they weren't things that they saw and they weren't unbelievably important. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it looks exactly like DNA tampering. The body of a man, the head of a bull. There was way too many of those for it not to have been real, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not only in one place on Earth either. It's everywhere on every continent. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I wanted to mention
I found
one
in the
thing
middle of nowhere, Richard. In the middle of nowhere, 26 feet from the ground up. I just happened to notice it with a drone. In every single spot where you see these carvings of you'll see a bunch of people. You can tell that they're regular people. You can see farm animals. You can see regular everyday things. And then every single solitary time there's a carving of a spiral, and right next to it is a giant being with horns and the head of an animal. That's right here in Utah.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
It is, yeah. I wanted to mention one thing with going back to virtual reality, just to digress for a sec. A huge aspect, along with video games, is pornography. I mean, people get hooked on that like heroin, basically. And you can imagine if it's virtual reality and it's basically like a real person, and you can like design the person, you know, you're doing something with in the pornography. That's going to hook a lot of people into, you know, wanting to hook themselves up to transhumanism. And you know, they always give us what we want, because they're mind scientists. They understand the human mind exceptionally well. I posted a video on Facebook just now on that, how media shape the generations, and yeah, there you go. From Days of Noah, he does an amazing job of covering you know, mind control sciences, from, you know, MK Ultra to, you know, just television, how it's all developed. And it's amazing to follow the series on that channel to understand how they design the culture and the counterculture, and they always give us what we want, and what people want now. I mean, you just think of mobile phones. They kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until we had the ability to watch pornography on them for mobile phone. Then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, the screens. And you know, virtual reality, pornography is going to be a huge factor in sucking people into that. because I mean, it's an addiction.
Well, think about this. Think about this. I don't know exactly how old you are, but I remember when the internet first showed up. The internet first showed up. I made a video about this recently, and I talked about this on Republic Radio the other day. When the internet first showed up, it was basically useless to most people because all there was if you knew how to do computer coding, the internet was helpful. Other than that, all there was pornography. And it's the first time most people had ever seen child pornography or bestiality because it was no holds barred. That's the first thing that the internet offered people straight out of the mouth of CERN was hardcore, unbelievably disgusting pornography. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you knew how to do, Linux coding or, really, really intricate computer coding, binary, whatever. I don't even know what you call it. But other than that, that's what there was porn.
Yeah. I mean, in a simplistic, like in a nutshell, everything that's been done in the last few decades, starting from like the 60s, counterculture, has been an attack on the family. You had the feminist movement being launched at the same time as Playboy and Hustler being launched. Then you had the LGBT and pornography being launched at the same time as that, and it's all about destroying the family, because the family unit is what makes a society strong. Once you erode the family unit, people lose their sovereignty, their identity, national and family ties. And now what they're doing, we've seen videos of Jim Carrey going out talking about how he's not real, he's just an idea. And it's what they're having their puppets in Hollywood push now is the idea of that everyone is one and we're not individuals. And so now that they've killed the national sovereignty and with the immigration crisis and all of this, then they've killed the family unit, they've killed gender identity, and now they're killing the individual identity as well, because they want a society of just human cyborg transhumans.
They're almost there, dude. They're almost there.
Yeah, and before they do that, I mean, they've tore down the two pillars, male and female, which is what the Twin Towers were symbolic of. I mean, just to go on a tangent here quickly, the Freedom Tower, the One World Freedom Tower, is designed like an anti-prism in its geometry. And if you think of what a prism does, it takes white light and separates it into many colors. An anti-prism takes many colors and brings them together into white light. And so the motto of the New World Order, and you see it on the dollar bill and on the painting Apotheosis of Washington and the Capitol Hill Dome, you see unum e pluribus, or pluribum e unum in Latin, means out of many one, out of many religions one world religion, out of many two genders, male and female, they want to create just one. So out of all these LGBT, Q, A, B, C, all of them, they're going to just merge them into one eventually. And so the reason for the rainbow flag being the symbol of the LGBT movement is a symbol of the merging of the races into one. And another place we see the rainbow is in Genesis. It's the covenant between God and Noah that God won't flood the earth again. And so it's an attack, days of Noah again, the cloning and the merging, the corruption of man's DNA. That symbolism is coming back now in the form of the rainbow flag for the LGBT community. That's not to say that anyone who's involved, is gay or lesbian or whatever are bad people, but that's just how society has been designed, because it's social engineering, so that's what the One World Freedom Tower represents, just the birthing of the new race from the two pillars that collapsed, male and female. I mean, there's a lot more to this.
I find it convenient. I mean, you can blow this off. Anybody can justify it any way they want, but it's funny, the creepy things that happen at One World Trade Center right now. The noises, the people catching weird demonic looking eyes in the middle of the night on video. That was an enormous, enormous sacrifice. And that, I mean, in my opinion, all of this, the march towards the New World Order started with JFK, but they really kicked it up on 9/11. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense, Richard Kallberg?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, JFK, that channel that I just spoke about mind control, Days of Noah, he shows in that video I just posted how the generations were shaped, the chaos era, which covers the 60s and 70s. This, describes how JFK was a huge psychological event for people. It kind of just ended the 60s, and with a huge mental shock for people, and they had to kind of snap out of the happy bubble that had been fostered in the 60s. And then you had the Martin Luther King killing as well, which just brought things to head with the black community. I mean, it's a remarkable way they've designed culture, and I'd really recommend that channel to anyone who wants to understand how culture and the counterculture are designed. And you see how, looking back at things like that, you see how the New Age movement was grown out of the 60s and 70s, and you see how that's feeding into things today and the transhumanism. And
Days of Noah he does a killer job, man. He does. I just subscribed to him with my second channel, but I support him on Patreon. He's a good channel. The kid's smart, or the guy's smart, whatever.
Yeah, he's very smart. But I mean, when we see, looking back, what the CIA did with MK Ultra and making it not just like a lab experiment, but like Woodstock was the biggest lab experiment ever, and just feeding into what's happening now. I mean, we start to understand how culture and the counterculture now, because the counterculture is the Black Lives Matter, feminism, LGBT, Antifa. All of these are counterculture groups that are just being steered and engineered into.
Well, they're not only being steered, but they're wholly financed and allowed to happen by Rockefeller and Rothschild. Every single time, these people are directly behind it.
And there's a massive overlap. I mean, you look at the founders of the Black Lives Matter are 3 lesbians, and so you see the overlap between that one social justice group and another social justice group, and eventually they're just all going to merge, and they'll all hate the same group, and that'll be Christians who are truthers and refuse to bow down to immoral behavior.
I agree. I absolutely agree. This is. It sounds ridiculous because the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds are behind it, but they are. And you can find the paper trail, and they don't seem to really care if you can prove it because nobody's listening. It's amazing to me. When you talk about Woodstock being a giant petri dish, so to speak, it's also one of the first places where they used chemtrails out in the open and people actually noticed it. You know what I'm saying? Are you familiar with that?
Oh, well, I didn't know that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
They manipulated the weather. They screwed with them big time.
I mean, they tested spraying LSD over towns in France and other places, and so it wouldn't surprise me if they were spraying stuff on over Woodstock.
Imagine how much that would suck if they dosed the entire community. Everybody was literally tripping on psychedelics and didn't know it. I would be pissed. That would suck.
Yeah, unless if you're one of those people who are.
While I've got you on, I've probably in the last few days, I've probably gotten about, I don't know, couple 300 emails from people in Scotland, whatever, the UK, whatever it is, whatever you call it, where they're saying that they're feeling like entire towns have been put to sleep at the same time for a couple of minutes, and they're blaming this on HAARP being tested. Have you heard anything in that ballpark, or am I just getting a bunch of crazy people from the same area?
I haven't heard about that, but I'll definitely look into it. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, with the technology they have with 5G and smart meters and Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think that the technology, they know about cymatics and the power of sound and frequency, and the military has a riot control technology where they can target the frequency of a throat or target the frequency of the mind or some part of the body where they can target it, and it wouldn't surprise me if they can have technology that they can just target someone's particular part in their brain and put them to sleep. Or
that's my biggest fear, dude. That's my biggest fear, is that when they finally flip the switch, will people even notice? Will they how do I say this? They have the technology because I've shown the patents. We've gone over this ad nauseum. What if when they flip the switch, you never remember your life previous to the flip of the switch? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, there's a good a trailer from the movie Mind Gamers where they show the flip of the switch. Like, everyone gets all hyped up about technology being part of a one hive mind where they can, download all the information they want and just be like a superhuman, basically. And then the switch gets flipped, and they all turn into like mindless, remote-controlled drones. And I think that's pretty much a good analogy of how it's going to be, where you'll have a society of remote-controlled cyborgs, and then there'll be the Christians. And
right, and that's
it's gonna be pretty awesome, I think. For I mean, just really surreal, but I mean, for Christians who are awake and receiving the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. I mean, Jesus said, "Greater works than these shall you do." If you can say it to a mountain, and you can move the mountain from here to there, and nothing shall be impossible to you. In 1 John chapter 3, verse 2 and 3, he says, we shall be like him, we shall see him as he is. And the gospel is a story of victory. It's the biggest victory that God could ever make for anyone, and it's a gift for us. And so I think for anyone listening, I want to reassure, this what we're talking about, it's a lot of negative stuff. It's a lot of there's a lot of shocking things going on in the world, but it's also going to be a really awesome journey. And I mean, I'm quite excited, to be honest. I mean, all the people, all the biblical characters and things throughout history all looked forward to this day. I mean, it's the closest we've ever been, literally, to when Jesus comes back and kicks some butt. So it's exciting times. I mean, there's a lot going on, and it's going to get even worse. But it's exciting at the same time, and I'm positive.
Exactly on that note, this is why I stress the full armor and seeking the full armor of God all the time, because it's the only protection that we have. And I know a lot of people are claiming to be targeted individuals in praying for the full armor of God or having the Holy Spirit poured into you is the only protection. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I mean, without the full armor and the mark of God, people will basically be just human piñatas for demons. I mean, kind of already are, in a sense.
Human piñatas for demons. That's the quote of the day by Richard Kallberg. Richard, we've been on for almost an hour. I have to cut this kind of short, but can I get you back after the beginning of the new year? Is that cool? We'll do a much longer one, and I'll be prepared.
Absolutely, anytime.
Well, we got a pretty decent audience. This is go out to a lot of people. So, but yeah, I want to get you back on where we actually have all our ducks in a row. This is all on me. I was not ready this morning. I've been having a tough few nights, and that's pretty much all I'll say. The links to Richard's Facebook page, as well as the Narrow Gate, which is a literal cornucopia of information. It's amazing. That cymatic video you have is phenomenal. I've never seen it anywhere else. So there's that.
Thanks.
But yeah,
just want to say it's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, it's like speaking with someone who's awake as well is really fun. I mean, it's just a sense of normalcy in the everyday Groundhog Day of being surrounded by people who don't have a clue what's going on. So it's always a pleasure talking to you, and I'd love to be on again soon, anytime.
Yeah, well, let's shoot for like the 2nd or the 1st of the year. How's that? Just that's a week or so.
Sounds good.
All right, brother. All right,
and
Richard
also big thank you to everyone listening as well.
Richard Kallberg on Facebook. Richard Kallberg, The Narrow Gate. The links will be in the description. The links will be in the chat. Richie from Boston, and Richie from
Sweden. I'm out.
out. Later, guys. Thanks, Richard.
Bye bye.